Hey, do you need a servo tester? Yes. Yes, you do. And I'm not just saying that because it's available for the low price of $9.99 by clicking on the link in the description of this video. No, I'm saying that because this little device can prevent this or this from happening by identifying defective or damaged parts before you ever get in the air. Let's walk through how it works.
Got a package for you.
You get your brand new FMS 70mm FA18 version 2 in the mail. You're all excited to get this thing in the air, get it assembled. But it has a warranty. So if you start modifying it or flying it, then for the most part, that warranty is void. So you open up the box, you're all excited. You've got a bunch of parts there. You got wings and stabilizers and other stabilizers and fuselages. You've got all these things. You've got 6 servos in here. With the growing popularity of these inexpensive models in general, pressure to keep the price down is forever remaining on the manufacturers. They're cutting corners where they can, and unfortunately, one of the places that they cut corners are in the electronic components, your servos, your speed controllers, and things like that. I have personally experienced 3 different models that came from the factory with defective servos in them. And actually, one of my models, which shall remain nameless, actually had 3 defective servos in the same model. And yes, the manufacturers do have warranties, and but in some cases, it's a lot easier to replace a $3 servo than it is to pack a model up, ship it back to the manufacturer, wait a month, and go through all the red tape of getting a replacement model. To kind of circumvent all of that, you just test your servos before you connect anything to your receivers or go out and fly. The way that I use a servo tester is I start with one of these mini batteries that are left over from my micro Warbird days. You just kind of plug it into one of the free slots on the tester, and you just have this knob here, and this knob will kind of cycle through the maximum number of pulses, which is what moves the servos, all the way down to the minimum number of pulses. And then you just find one of the servos. This thing has 7 slots in it, so you can plug in multiple servos at a time. So we're going to go ahead and plug in the flap servo. It's just like connecting to a receiver. And then we're going to plug in the aileron servo on this wing. And once they're all plugged in, then we just simply turn the knob from one extreme to the other to just verify that the servos move throughout the entire length or the entire range of their motion. Simple as that. And then we move on to, we unplug these 2 guys. So we know that the servos for the aileron and flaps in our right wing are good to go. And so then we can jump to our left wing and just repeat the process. And looks like our left wing is good. And we would just repeat this process for each of the control surfaces, for each of the vertical stabilizers. And what we're looking for when we're cycling through this thing, obviously servos that aren't moving, and we're looking for servos that are making unusually loud clicking or dragging noises, servos that are moving part of the way but then not the entire range. And that's just a really quick way to identify any potential problems. And of course, you know that if your model has retracts, while it might be easier to ship with the wheels folded in, it's a lot easier to assemble with the wheels folded out. And then once everything is assembled, you can go inside of the plane and you can test all of the extension cables that connect to the control surfaces. So here's our elevators. Extension cables are good. And we can also use the servo tester to set all of our control surfaces to neutral. Here's our rudder. All of our rudder extension cables work. Now for our flaps. Neutralize our flaps. And then our ailerons. And our aileron extension cable works. The advantage that using a servo tester offers over using your receiver to test all of your functions is simply the fact that your receiver may not be set up to move the servo through the entire range of its motion. And also, in order to do that, you'd have to bind the receiver, connect all the other connections, the extensions, and so on and so forth. And so if you have issues, it's a little bit harder to narrow those issues down. But if you have this simple device, only $9.99, then you can simply identify problems much earlier in the process and save yourself a little bit of headache. That is a fine looking airplane.